Okay.
So we've started recording right now. My name is Richard Lee. I am a retired immigration officer. I worked for fraud detection and national security for, I think, about 8 years. I was an immigration officer for 20 years altogether. Retired from there with 30 years with the government, was in the Coast Guard, and also worked for the U.S. Senate for a period of time. Um, so my experience has been in marriage fraud and some of the manipulation that U.S. citizens go through. Um, I'd like for you to introduce yourself, and we'll talk about your story if that would be good. So go ahead, Sean, and tell us who you are.
My name is Sean. Use my last name,
Sure.
Sean Marchman.
Okay.
I'm originally from Philadelphia, PA,
Okay.
born and raised. I lived in Fort Worth, Texas for 7 years, and I currently reside in Port Royal, South Carolina.
Port
Um,
Royal, South Carolina. So, we're close by. We're practically neighbors. We're gonna have lunch one day. I'm gonna
yeah,
have to come and see you because I'm in Mount Pleasant in the Charleston
okay,
area. So,
okay.
I'd love to get together and do that. We'll do that one day. Um, so one of the things that we're talking about is we're talking about people in the U.S. who sometimes marry immigrants and some of the challenges that they run into and some of the just the damage that's done to them. So I'm going to let you just tell your story. What you met this immigrant, and how did you meet her, and how did this process work?
I met my former ex immigrant spouse um, through my mother.
Yes. Mhm.
Uh, um, she is a friend. She is the daughter of my mother's best friend. My
Mhm.
mother and her mother met in 1994 in Philadelphia while my mother was a drug and alcohol addiction counselor in a transition home for women and children in West Philadelphia under Calvary Baptist Church.
Hmm.
It's part of the ministry. Um, the late
What a
Pastor Joseph.
rewarding and challenging job at the same time. I really praise your mother for that. That's really an amazing.
My
It's a tough
mom,
job.
as she was at the time, she was a student at Westchester studying for her bachelor's degree in early childhood education. And my ex spouse's mother and her came to Bermuda. The church from Bermuda sent them to Philadelphia because her mother was a crack addict and an alcoholic. She was in recovery,
Mhm.
and they sent her to Philadelphia to get away from Bermuda and the drugs and the alcohol. And she was also prostitute in the street. She was at that time, she was clean for about a year, but she was still struggling
Mhm.
hard. And my mother and her hit it off immediately. My mother became part of her recovery, big part, their friendship, the inspiration that my mother gave her.
Yeah.
And my ex spouse at the time was 10 years old. They didn't stay in Philadelphia for very long. My mother said for about a month, and then they went back home.
Mhm.
And her mother stayed clean after that. Um,
Amazing.
and my mom and her, my mom would frequently go to Bermuda. My mother was in her mother's wedding when she got married in the 90s. Um, she stayed in their home numerous occasions. My ex-spouse's mom used to come to Philadelphia. My ex-spouse, when my mother was married 22 years ago, 21 years ago, she married my ex-spouse's um, stepfather's friend at the time.
Mm.
Wedding
Okay.
took place here in Philadelphia, and my ex-wife's, my former mother-in-law's, was in the wedding. Her husband was in the wedding. I was in the wedding. My sister was in the wedding.
Yeah.
Um, and Beautiful wedding. And my mother since divorced him years ago. So I met my ex-wife through my mother, and the year before last. That's how I met her.
Yeah.
She introduced me to her. Uh, and in the beginning, we hit it off.
Mm-hmm.
We hit it off. She love bombed me repeatedly, constantly.
And
Calling
you
me.
mean love bombing you, like, I mean, she's telling you, I love you. Oh, that's what love, just so the audience knows that love bombing is just, I mean, they just throw this affection and this caring to you,
Yes,
which is very common. Yeah. So it's kind of almost a narcissistic
it is. It's a
concept.
manipulation tactic.
It's very yeah, it is. Exactly. Yeah. So,
Um, I during the course of me knowing her, I found out that she is a life coach.
mhm.
She's also a licensed barber and hairstylist, manicurist, nail tech rather,
Yeah.
and massage therapist. Um, so she has these businesses. She's also an author
Mm.
of a book of poetry. Um, and business wise, she's a business owner. She was doing well. In the process of knowing her
Mhm.
before we were married, I also found out she told me that she practices divination, uh, which is a form of witchcraft.
Yeah.
And she told me, she showed it to me, and she told me that uh, this is how she really makes her money, was
Yeah.
doing this. Um, and at the time when she told me this and showed it to me, I didn't fully, I couldn't put my finger on what to call it until this year when it just hit me. It's
Yeah.
actually divination. I couldn't think of the word, but it hit me. But when she showed this to me and told me, I had this overwhelming sense of evil,
Mhm.
and it never left me. This presence of evil, um, and it scared me. To be honest, it really scared me at that time, and for months afterwards, the fear waned, but it still scared me. I'm not afraid anymore, but in hindsight, I thank God that I got out of it. I
Yeah.
got out of it. So, but her
Now you
constant. Hmm.
I'm sorry. Now you met her. I'm sorry to cut you off. But you met her through your mother, but you were living in Texas, and where was she living at the time? Because you told me this story, so I just want to make sure I understand this. You were living in Texas, and she was living in Georgia,
Atlanta,
right?
Atlanta, yes, in
In
Fulton County.
Atlanta,
It's at Union City.
Union City. Yeah. Okay. Very familiar. That's where I did most of my work as a fraud officer, was in Atlanta, in that area. So she was living there, and you guys were you communicating back and forth just through, like, uh, through your phone, text, telephone
WhatsApp,
calls and stuff like
WhatsApp. We
that?
video
WhatsApp.
called all the time. We emailed. We texted,
Yeah.
constant.
Okay. And so how long did you guys date? What was the like what was the courtship like? How long were you dating? Just on the phone and everything.
Our first time ever speaking was August 9th,
What
um,
year?
of 2022,
2022. Okay.
and we were married September 13th, 2022.
So about a month,
Yep,
right? Okay.
maybe 5 weeks.
Yeah.
No, yes, close to 5 weeks. Felt like at the time, I just remember it felt so much longer. It felt like months had went by. That's weird.
I think it's no, it's, I mean, someone's love bombing you, and you did share some with me that you're kind of, you were in an emotional spot, right? You were in an emotional spot, which we all get in, and we sometimes we feel down, and someone can come along and manipulate that, right? And
Yes, yes.
I just,
Um, I was sharing an apartment with a former girlfriend
mhm,
at that time. Um, and my relationship with her was over.
yeah,
Like there was nothing. It was just no intimacy. There was nothing.
yeah.
And at
Just
the time,
roommates. You were roommates.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
my relationship with her, my ex in Texas, was very contentious. She had expressed to me over the years, many occasions, that she couldn't love me the way I needed her to love me, and
Yeah.
for me to seek it elsewhere. So it
Okay.
made it easier for me
Mhm.
to fall in love with this stranger,
Yeah.
who my immigrant spouse, former spouse.
Yeah. So you guys kind of talk through the phone, and she's in Texas, and then you um did you go to meet her in Atlanta, or did she come to Texas to meet you?
No, I flew to Atlanta to meet her.
And so when was that? Was that in
I flew into Atlanta September 11th. I was
September?
only there for a few days. Yes,
Okay. Okay.
September 11th, and we were
And
married September 13th.
yeah, and you said, were you guys intimate at any time during that time?
Yes, the night before we were married, September 12th.
The night before you were married. You tell me a little bit about that night and I know it's emotional, I know it's hard, but I think it's important to know that um
Um, Cayenne and I had been out of her apartment all day. Her daughter, who was 18 at the time, was home. Her son was 12 at the time. He was in middle school.
yep.
New school year, and her and I were out, and she was taking care of paperwork, running from this business to that business. Um, and On our way home back to her apartment, she picked up her son, went and got him something to eat, and then we dropped him off, and then we went back out to the liquor store,
Mhm.
and I bought a few bottles of wine, some
Mhm.
cheap bottles of wine. She already had one or two in the house, and she bought one or two more. Cayenne had with my former spouse, excuse me, had went to the wax shop,
Mhm.
which the woman goes get waxed, everything, get
Oh yeah.
waxed, all the hair taken off.
Oh yeah.
I went with her there. We went to the liquor store, we got that done, and then we finally went back to her apartment, um, took showers or whatever, changed to our pajamas because we wasn't going back out. And that night, Cayenne kept a small my, my former spouse kept a small bottle
Yeah.
of liquor
Yeah.
in her room next to
Yeah.
her headboard
Yeah.
by the base of the wall.
Yeah.
I didn't know it.
Yeah.
She was already drinking
Yeah.
and getting drunk.
Yeah.
It was a small bottle of Patron.
Mhm.
I believe it was Patron. And we were in her bedroom. She had her door locked, and we're talking for hours. And she has the music blaring, blasting. Um, and we're drinking wine. You opening up the bottles of wine, and we're drinking bottle to bottle. Now, I wasn't high or anything. I had a little buzz, but I was fine because it just didn't do anything to. But she was full blown drunk, but I
Yeah.
didn't realize it.
Yeah.
She was secretly sipping on this Patron,
Yeah.
and how I found out she was drunk, she went to the bathroom, and when she no she came she said, "Oh man, something is wet on my floor." And what she had did was she has accidentally knocked the bottle of Patron over, but didn't realize it. So when she
Yeah.
went to the bathroom, I was curious, and I said, "Well, what's wet on the floor in here? What could be wet?" So I seen the bottle and I picked it up. And when she came back into the room, I said, "This is what you knocked over." And she said, "Oh, I forgot to put the top on." So I think she either took a sip or she put the top on, one or the other. But most of it was gone.
Yeah.
And we're drinking bottle after bottle, and there was no kissing, no physical anything leading up to this.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, she asked me, "Do what color do I want her to change the light to red or blue or something?" and or pink or something. And I said, it don't matter to me. I'm trying to play dumb. Like I really don't know it. And I really didn't know. And I'm like,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter to me what you put it on. But something
Yeah.
told me, oh, she wants to have sex. But there's nothing leading up to it. It was
Yeah.
just jump into
No,
it.
there's no intimacy. It was
No
no.
intimacy at all. None.
I got you. No
And
passion. I got you.
right. And
Yeah.
and that just turned me off. And when I realized that and when I really thought about her being drunk,
Yeah.
it really turned me off. I couldn't perform. I just couldn't. I
I
can't
understand.
perform that way.
Yeah. No, I understand. No, that makes perfect sense to me. You know. Yeah.
And I I couldn't perform. I did somewhat, and then I stopped because there was nothing to it. It's like, oh man, this is dead. Like I can't
Mhm.
do it.
Yeah.
And we performed some other little sexual acts,
Yeah.
and I just called it quits.
Yeah.
And she was full blown drunk at that point,
Yeah.
dancing around the room, nude, acting like a fool. That's when she showed me her divination that she practices online, that she makes her money online.
Yeah.
And that's what really scared me when she showed me her divination,
So
and how she makes her money.
so that kind of went south, I guess, pretty quick. You guys ended up, but you ended up getting married. You got married the next day, right?
The next
And
morning,
did you go to the just to the piece, or did you? When did you
she
get married?
had already arranged. Well, well, she called a judge, and the
Yeah.
judge met us in a park, Y Team Park in Atlanta,
Okay.
called Y Team Park. And we paid the judge $150 to
Yeah.
come.
Yeah.
Uh, and then we got dressed. Her daughter went and took pictures,
Hmm.
and she what happened? We after the ceremony, her we dropped her. She dropped her daughter off at home, and then I took her to IHOP,
Hmm.
and we had a nice breakfast. And then from then on, we went back to the courthouse and filed the marriage license, which I
Okay.
paid for.
Yeah.
I purchased two. Um, I purchased two marriage certificates.
Hmm.
One copy for me, one for her. That was coming to her address
Okay.
in 45 days. Um, and we went from there and she did some more paperwork, different at Staples and um, another in a copier store. I forget what it was.
Mhm.
Copied some papers and did paperwork
Yeah.
and all that stuff. And then from there, by that time we picked her son up from school and went back to her apartment.
And that
And
was all in. That's all the same day. That's just like a one day whirlwind kind of thing.
yeah,
So, when did you got married? When did you go back to Texas?
the next morning was September 14th, which was a Wednesday.
Okay. And then after you went back to Texas, did you guys get back together and live back together at some point? Did you come back to Atlanta?
No, she eventually she stopped communicating. Her communication became less and less.
That's okay.
And there were two or three times where I hadn't spoken to her for a week. Like, it
Okay.
was different times.
Yeah.
6 days, 5 days, or 7 days. And our communication would just became less and less. I would text her, no response.
Yeah.
Or she would read it but wouldn't respond. She wouldn't return my calls or wouldn't
Did
answer.
she did she talk to you about like filing for immigration paperwork? Did she file it, or how did the immigration process come into play?
Um, um, while I was there, we did discuss it.
Mhm.
And we had decided to file the I-130 when I got back so that I could sign it.
Okay. So you're going to go back to Texas. and then you're gonna fill out the I-130, the visa petition for an alien relative,
Right.
and you're gonna do that when you come back to Atlanta. You're gonna sign it, right?
Yes.
And did you go back to Atlanta to sign it?
No, no. When I got back to Texas, my I had to argue with her. I found out. Well, I had to argue with her about moving in,
Yeah,
moving into her apartment with her and her children.
yeah,
Um, so that we, because we just got married. We're family. Um,
yeah.
and she didn't want that.
She didn't want
She
you to move in,
No, no, not
okay.
at all. At
But
one
you're her husband.
Yes,
But you're her husband, and she doesn't want you to live with her. Okay,
right.
that's
So
interesting.
yeah, so at one point she was she did give in and was like, okay, because in Texas, my lease was up
Yeah,
February 27th. Um, and I was beginning to pack my things to send to her apartment.
yeah.
But when all that fell through, where it got to the point where we were arguing because of her lack of communication. Um,
So you're
and
arguing because she's not talking to you anymore. She's not
right,
pretty.
right,
She
right.
love bombed you, talking to you all the time. Is that right? I mean, she was constantly love bombing you. Then you get married, and then all of a sudden,
Yes,
nothing.
yes. Yep. So she let me go back. September 14th, that morning I flew home, flew back to Texas before she drove me back to the airport. We were early in the morning, I'm packed up. We're in her bedroom and we're talking, I'm sitting on her bed. And she asked me, was I gonna, am I gonna wear my ring? And of course I'm gonna wear my ring. I'm married. And I said, well, I asked her, well, when am I going to meet your family in Bermuda and her friends in Atlanta? She said she wasn't going to introduce me to them.
Hmm.
And it pissed me off. I said, why? And she said, well, because there are things that you need to get together for you before we could move forward.
Hmm.
And it just blew my mind. So I fly back to Texas. Communication becomes less. After we decided that I was going to move in, um, and then I would say the last time she spoke to me, uh, she told me she had never told her then 12-year-old son that we were married. The
Hmm.
only person that knew was her 18-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
She wasn't going to introduce me to her family in Bermuda, her friends. Um, and she didn't speak to me for about 2 months.
Really.
Yes.
Wow.
And then that's when I started to do my research
Hmm.
to immigrants who take advantage of Americans,
Yeah.
green cards.
Yeah.
And because I was mad, I was hurt and I was mad.
Yeah.
And she, not she, when I started to do the first thing I did was I called UCIS and I did reach an agent. Her name was Karen.
Hmm.
And I told her the story. And she said, all of this is on her. Don't worry about it. She
Hmm.
told me what to do. She told me to report her
Hmm.
on the website. So
Yeah.
I did. I created an account and I reported her.
Yeah.
Um, and then in time, as I became more frustrated and angry,
Hmm.
um, I got in touch with another agent, and that agent told me, "Well, she filed for the I-130.
Hmm.
It was filed." And I said, "Well, wait a minute. She needs my signature and my information to do so."
Hmm.
Well, she filed it. So
Yeah.
with the
And
eight,
Sean, I want to stop you for a bit because you use two terms that sometimes, one of the problems with either the immigration service or just people in general, you said you were frustrated and you were angry. And people misinterpret that sometimes. You have a right to be frustrated and angry, but you didn't do anything harmful to her.
No.
I mean, to my knowledge, I mean, because we've talked a couple of times, you weren't mean or manipulative or cruel to her. You were frustrated, you were hurt, and you were angry. And
Yes.
the reason I stop you for that is I want people to understand that that's a natural human reaction.
Hmm.
You've given your heart to someone, you're trying to love somebody, and they're manipulating you, and you have a right to be angry and frustrated. I mean, it's very important that we say that as men, that we have the right to do that. But at the same time, you didn't do anything harmful to anyone. You have the right to be angry.
Right.
I didn't mean to cut you off or stop you there, but
It's fine.
sometimes people will take that as aha, he's a bad person. No, you're a human being with emotions and with feelings, and you have the right to be hurt and angry when someone misuses you. I just want to make that clear because I think
Mhm.
it's unfair. It's especially unfair to us as men that we don't get to have those feelings.
Right.
Right? So
I mean,
yeah,
I had sent her money. I had sent my friend when my friend had sent us money for a
yep,
wedding gift. It wasn't a lot, but I gave it to her.
yep,
Uh, I sent her money. It wasn't big money, but it was still good money.
yep,
And and that money went to the cost of the I-130 petition to save up for when I came moved.
to file it.
Yes, to file it.
Yeah,
Well, the second agent told me that she filed it, and then I forget it was a man. It was online when I was talking to the
I got you.
agent,
I understand. Yeah,
and he or she gave me the address, said this is what you do, and they gave me the address to the Nebraska office where
yeah.
the petition went.
Nebraska service centers where they
Yes,
handle those. Yeah.
yes, and they said write them a letter, tell them the story, and tell them you want to have it withdrawn.
Mhm.
So I wrote up a very good letter. I copied it a bunch of times, and then I mailed the first letter. Um, didn't get any response, and in time around the Thanksgiving of 2022, I reached out to my ex-spouse's sister. One of
Mhm.
her, she has twin sisters who are exactly 10 years older than her that
Yep.
lives in Bermuda, and I reached out to one of them through Instagram,
Yep.
and we spoke at length. And she didn't know anything about me, but she was in shock. She was very surprised that
Mhm.
her sister was married. Um, she told me that her sister and the rest of the family didn't have a relationship. That my ex-wife did not want a relationship with any of them. That when she left Bermuda, which was in 20 December 2017, around Christmas time,
Yep.
they didn't even know. She said one morning they got up, her and the kids got up, Merry Christmas, and went to the airport and never came back. So
Hmm.
they don't even know where they live at in the
Hmm.
United States.
Yep.
So I gave her their address and everything. I told her everything. And my mom gave me the approval to reach out to her and tell her. Um, and
So none of her family knew that you had married her. No one knew that you were married. She didn't present you as being married to her.
no,
She signed the I-130, the visa petition, instead
yeah,
of you. Uh,
yes.
and you know, um, yeah. So I'm just trying to get that rundown. You guys met. Your mother knew her. Her mother. You met through that. You thought you were getting married for life, and she's never presents you as her husband.
Right.
Um, what did you find out in the process of after that, after you did the I-130? Have you found out any other information, or you know anything else about what's going on?
Um, Only that she she kept me in the dark about her personal life,
Yeah,
mostly. She only told me bits and pieces about her past. She never wanted to tell me her address in
yeah,
which she lived in Bermuda, where she grew up. She
yeah,
told me bits and pieces of how she grew up, the abuse,
yeah,
her mother a little bit about her mother's relationship, her and her mother's relationship, which was very contentious. She told me that she didn't want anything to do with her family over there. Once in a
Yeah.
blue moon, she would call her sister.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, you told me that she was like a very attractive woman too, right? She's very attractive. And I think she's she's attractive and she's business savvy. Was she kind of charismatic? Like a
yes,
charismatic person as well. Those are all important things. Those are all important manipulative things that people use. Being attractive and charismatic and
mm,
manipulative to kind of suck you into the whole game, I think
yes.
is what
And
happens, right?
in my process of getting to know her, she treated me and spoke to me more like a life coaching client
Mm,
versus a man she was trying to get to know and fall in
yeah,
love with.
yeah.
That's
And I think and we I always say men are visual creatures, but we also are. Yeah, we someone who's attractive and someone who's talking to you and shows an interest, a life coach showing interest in you and how to, man, that can get you, right. That plays on you a little bit,
yes.
right.
I
It's not uncommon for that to play on you a little bit.
No, no, it's not. It's a lot of life coaches. They know the language to use.
Yeah,
She
yeah,
has at the time she had 3 years of as she said it, of psychology degree under her belt. She
yeah,
had 1 more year to go.
yeah.
But she didn't have the money to go to finish.
To finish. Okay. So you guys married. Did you ever live together for any period of time?
No,
Never got. And why did you not live together? Was it because you didn't want to live together, or was it because she didn't want to live with you?
she didn't
Or
want to
she
live.
and did she just tell you point blank she didn't want to live with you, or was there like stories behind it? Like, oh, I got to do X, you got to do Y, or something else has got to happen.
She told me point blank, when she changed her mind about me moving there and moving in, she changed. It was point blank. She didn't want to live together.
Okay. Yeah. And who filed for divorce?
I did.
Did you? Now, okay. And how long were you guys married before you filed for divorce?
11 months.
11 months. Did you file in Atlanta as
No,
well?
when I moved, when in time, um my mother asked me to move here to South Carolina
Okay.
because she needed my help.
Okay.
So I was packing my boxes and packing up all my things and shipping them to my mother's house.
Yeah.
And February 22nd is when I moved from Texas to South Carolina.
Okay.
Um, and I lived with my mother for 4 months, and then that process, the first 4 months of me living here, and in that process, I found a lawyer, a divorce attorney, for a no fault, uncontested divorce in
Yeah.
Marietta, Georgia. Um, and he, the process was simple. He started the paperwork. I gave him a down payment. He was cheap. Um, he did get in contact with her. Um,
You love cheap attorneys because some of them aren't. So
yeah,
that's at least a blessing to get through the process. So so you filed for divorce and the attorney reached out to her. Did she complain or did she try to fight it or she was
nah,
just good to go?
she signed it. She
Okay.
signed it, and had it notarized. I did the same thing, and he filed it in June of last year, and
Yep.
the judge signed it August 9th. I'm sorry, a year to the day that we first met and spoke.
Okay. Was that August the 9th of 2020,
2023.
2023? Okay.
Um,
Um, can I ask you this? What what was this like emotionally for you?
it was horrible. It was um, it was one of the most horrible things I've ever been through
Yeah.
in my life. I've been through some horrible things, but that was one of the most horrible things I've been through.
It's
Um,
hard when someone uses you, and
Yeah.
you love them, and you
Oh
love
yeah.
them. And yeah, that's a tough one. I'm sorry that you went through that. I think people need to know that it's emotionally draining, and
Yes.
it takes
I
a.
I was deeply in love with her, and I for a long time I was closed off. I would talk to anybody. When I started my new job here at that time,
Yeah,
I would talk to anybody about what I was feeling because I had no one to talk to. My mother didn't want to talk about it.
yeah,
She was sick of hearing it. My sister,
yeah,
and I was distraught for a long time,
yeah.
depressed,
Yes. Yeah.
contemplating suicide a bunch of times.
Sorry.
Uh, and my mom and I weren't getting along. Um,
Did the service help you at all? Did USCIS or any, did they give you any sense that they really cared?
no,
No, it's
no,
yeah,
mm-mm,
no,
no.
it's just yeah.
I spoke
I
to
mean,
new agents. I reported her on the website. I reported her about 4 times to ICE on their website. I reported her about 11 times on the USCIS website. I wrote a letter to the office in Texas to, I filled out an I-865 to have,
864. I-864.
no, no, no. It's the 864 is for the affidavit of support.
Yes.
The 865 is the change of address.
Oh, yes, yes. I'm sorry. Yes, yes.
So I wrote a letter I downloaded that form, filled it out, wrote another letter to them explaining the situation to have my address changed in the system
Mhm.
to my address at my mother's
Yeah,
because when my ex-spouse did the filled did submitted the I-130 application,
yeah,
she listed on the application that my address was I believe in Texas at the time,
yeah,
but because she submitted the application, the whatever correspondence that was coming from immigration would come to her address in
yeah,
Atlanta.
yeah,
I wouldn't know anything.
yeah. Never had a clue that anything
No,
was going on. Yeah,
no. So that's why I did the I-865.
yeah,
And fortunately I did it. They received it. And August the 8th, the day before my divorce was finalized,
mhm,
immigration, the Nebraska Service Center had withdrew the I-130 petition.
good.
I had submitted the letter 3 times to them.
Yeah,
The last one was March 16th of 2023, and I had it certified
yeah.
because I wasn't sure if it was getting there. I wasn't getting any correspondence or anything.
Did you? So they withdrew the I-130, but they really the I-130 wasn't even valid because you never signed it anyway, which
Right,
is kind of interesting. They should have just denied it based on the fact that it wasn't real. It wasn't a real I-130 because you didn't do it.
right.
That's interesting. Yeah. Um, but I think the thing that I think people should understand, and from you and what you see, is that if people manipulate U.S. citizens all the time, and then the service does nothing. I always, when I worked for the service, Sean, I used to say all the time, it's in the name. We are the Department of Homeland Security. And in our mantra, it is we're supposed to protect U.S. citizens,
Hmm.
and they don't. I'm sorry to say it. They don't. You are the last person on the totem pole for who they care about. And it's what I did for 20 years. I'm like, wait a minute, we've got to watch out for the U.S. I, um, I'm sorry that you went through this. I'm sorry that it really pains me because the years I was in, I thought I'm supposed to protect you. I'm not supposed to protect some immigrant somewhere.
Right.
I'm supposed to be protecting a U.S. citizen from people manipulating and harming people like you. And you are not alone, brother. I promise you, you are not the only person that's gone through. I tell this to you. I don't mean this to be like, I don't want to minimize your pain. I just want you to understand that they do this often to
I
people.
know.
And so I'm not trying to minimize your pain and your suffering. I don't mean that. I think it sucks, and I want I want someone to do something about it.
Right. I personally know 6 women, 7, no 6, who were manipulated um, and used by an immigrant.
Yeah.
And one of the people that I know knows of a man who married a woman from Africa
Yeah.
years ago, and she had this man foolishly. He put his name. You know, he had some money. He had owned his own home, and whatever he was he had his own business, or whatever he was doing
Yeah.
prior to knowing was his ex-wife,
Yeah.
and she had him thrown out of his house, and she took everything from him.
Yeah. Happened.
And through his grief, he turned to alcoholism.
Mm.
He killed himself. He
I'm
died.
sorry, man. That's terrible. That's just, yeah.
I don't,
I've heard those stories. I've seen it. I've
and
seen it too. How are you doing today?
today right now I'm okay. There are lots of times where I really feel down about what happened.
Yeah.
There's sometimes once in a while I may get an inkling of, missing her.
Yeah.
But then I shake it off. Um, there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about her, that she crosses my mind in some
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Um, I wish that she would just give me one honest conversation.
Yeah. And
Um,
she can't, man. She can't do that. That's just not
you know,
possible.
I realized in hindsight, I found out in hindsight that she was a narcissist, and she was a life coach narcissist, and I researched it. I researched her personality and the things that she had went through in her lifetime, and I realized that she's a narcissist and just a cold-blooded person.
Yeah.
And I also found out that, well, when we first spoke, that she could never get that if she get remarried, she'll get hit with fraud again. If she files another I-130,
Yeah.
she'll get fraud and she'll never get another immigration benefit. Um,
Well, yeah. Um, it's always a possibility. Well, it's kind of the fact that she entered into a marriage with you for that process is probably going to be damaging. And we'll see how the system again, because I think what we want to make sure the American people know this and other people know this is that the system is not for you as a U.S. citizen. The
right,
system is for the immigrant. And there are laws on the books that says absolutely she should never be allowed to be a citizen or a legal permanent resident. That the
right,
law says that she entered into a marriage for fraudulent reasons and she should not be allowed to be one. But we don't have a system that protects U.S. citizens. And that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. I don't, I'm retired. I don't owe anyone anything. Uh, but I have a duty and a responsibility to the people I promised to protect and to help.
right,
And they're not doing that. And it's like being in the military. Once you're in the military, you're supposed to be, your job is to defend the Constitution and the people, and we don't do that. And I'm sorry this happened to you. Is there, I think we've gone close to like an hour.
mhm,
I think your story is compelling. I'm sorry that it happened. So I'm going to stop the recording. I
mhm.
appreciate your time. And again, one of the things I'm going to end with is I'd like to post this on YouTube, and I am trying to make this as a you and others who I interview. I want to make sure that we expose the people who are doing damage, and I want our legislators to know that the harm that's caused you. Do you have an issue with me having recorded this and also to use this in my YouTube channel? Is that acceptable to you?
No, it's fine with me. It's fine
Good.
as long
Thank you,
as
Sean.
long as it helps people, warns people, and hopefully it helps to change.
The system. I appreciate it. Yep, exactly. Okay, I'm going to stop now. Thank you very much, Sean, but I'm going to keep you on. I want to ask you some questions here
Okay,
separately from that. So thank you.
okay, you are.